Only I've been both Jedi and Sith, and found clarity in the Force.
In a top 10 list of greatest Jedi or greatest Sith, Revan is one of the few characters to consistently make it into both lists. Renowned for his tactical brilliance, his passion, and his dedication to his cause, Revan is easily one of the most compelling characters to ever exist in the Star Wars mythos.
Revan was power. It was like staring into the heart of the Force. Even then you could see the Jedi he would slay etched on his soul.
Defying the Jedi Council in his youth when they refused to help those in need, Revan was a man of great principle. Still, his fall to the dark side only solidified the Jedi Council in their complacency and the abdication of their responsibility to help those in need. However, Revan still proved that even a Sith can be redeemed to the light, and not all Sith do what they do for the sake of evil.
The difference between a fall and a sacrifice is sometimes difficult, but I feel that Revan understood that difference more than anyone knew.
Aside from his great accomplishments, Revan was defined by a lust for knowledge. He spent his entire life learning as much as he could about the Force, sitting under any teacher who would tolerate him. As a result of this incessant study, he commanded a wide array of Force abilities, both light and dark. So today we are talking about the rarest Force powers ever used by Revan.
I've known both sides of the Force, light and dark.
A big thanks to Keeps.com for sponsoring this video. So I would look terrible bald. I love my hair and I don't ever want to lose it. I want to go nice and gray and then white and be thick and silver forever. I don't care how wrinkly I get. I don't care if I need glasses or all of my teeth replaced. I just want to keep my hair. Please. My family history says it's a toss-up because my great-granddad on my mom's side had a full head of hair as thick as mine until his 90s. However, the rest of the men in my family have baldness in their genes. Considering that 2 out of 3 men experience some form of hair loss throughout their lives, it's no surprise there. With Keeps, you can prevent hair loss as soon as it starts, so you don't have to let bad genes be the only thing standing between you and elderly illustriousness.
When 900 years old you reach, look as good you will not.
Thanks to Keeps for offering 50% off your order when you click the link in the description. So go to keeps.com/lorestar if you are not ready to start losing your hair.
No.
I saw on your service records that you understand a remarkable number of alien languages. That's pretty rare in a raw recruit, but it should come in handy while we're stranded on a foreign world.
The first ability is one known as Comprehend Language, and this allows the user to understand the language spoken by any sentient organic species. This is great because it means that the user can communicate with any species without the need for formal training. There are basically 2 versions of this ability, but we will get into that later. This ability was extremely rare, hence why we're talking about it in this video. If it wasn't, then the Jedi would have no need for protocol droids. This works by brute forcing your way into your subject's mind. While the power was used by Jedi, such as Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa Solo, Revan describes the experience as an incredibly dark one. In his words, this worked by forcing your way into the subject's subconscious against their will and, quote, ripping the knowledge of the language out of their minds. In Revan's case, the knowledge that was gained by this ability would become a permanent part of him. However, as we mentioned earlier, there do seem to be 2 different versions of this ability. The version used by Leia, Luke, and Obi-Wan, for example, seems to be much more gentle, and it simply involves reading the speaker's emotions while they talk to get an idea of what they're saying. Revan used a significantly more invasive version of the technique, gaining an entire vocabulary by ripping it from their mind, rather than mere impressions or emotions as they spoke. It is implied very heavily that the practice drew upon the dark side of the Force, as the experience was not a pleasant one for the victim. While the absorbing of the language was near instant, the ability was one that took Revan years to learn and perfect. Studying for a large portion of his youth in the Jedi Temple and the Jedi Enclaves, how to properly learn someone's language merely by a Force impression. And taking him years to learn the ability, but using it in a single instant, the knowledge of that language that he gained would be permanent. He even carried their languages with him after the Jedi had stripped away his memories and the knowledge on how to control the Force itself. Any language that had been ripped by Revan before that moment was still in his mind, allowing him to understand many languages throughout the game of Knights of the Old Republic, including the language of the supposedly long-extinct Rakatan Empire. In the game, this is the reason why Revan is able to understand Shriwook, the language of the Wookiees, and famously the most difficult, or at least one of the most difficult, languages in all of Star Wars. This was actually my first problem that I had with Rey, by the way. I remember coming out of the theater and saying to my sister that I didn't understand how she could speak Wookiee and Droid, since those were the two most difficult languages to learn.
But I don't want to talk about it right now. Let's go.
Seriously, she is the only character in all 9 movies, besides 3PO, who can understand astromech.
No text. It's broken. Can you understand what he's saying?
I'm not a protocol droid.
On top of that, in Legends, Leia still had a hard time understanding Chewie 5 years after Return of the Jedi. At first, I thought maybe Rey had this Force ability too, but that wouldn't explain why she's able to understand BB-8, since that ability is not known to work on droids. You need an organic mind to enter with the Force in order to gain an impression of their language. And she grew up on a planet where Wookiees would die of heat stroke and droids would be disassembled for parts on site. But sure, this makes sense.
You said you're coming back with us.
I thought I said I don't want to talk about it anymore.
I'm pretty sure that Beep is down.
I sense Count Dooku is above us.
Oh, yes, you're right. Beep is up.
You touch an object and witness events connected to it. You feel its history.
The second ability is called Psychometry, and it's one of the most clever Force abilities out there. Psychometry is, again, an incredibly rare Force ability that allows the user to experience past events through echoes in the Force.
It's an echo in the Force from the object.
Not many Jedi have that skill.
Like Comprehend Speech, this was famously used by Leia Organa Solo, and an ability that even Luke Skywalker himself was unable to perform. Revan was not particularly skilled with this ability and could not use it on command. However, it did sometimes just happen to him. There were several notable moments where he was able to experience psychometric visions. After losing his memories, Revan was sent by the Jedi Council to hunt down the maps to the Starforge, an ancient space station used by Darth Revan and Darth Malak before he lost his memories, to begin a campaign that would nearly destroy the Jedi. Whenever Revan and Bastila would travel to a planet, he would receive a vision of the star map's location on that planet, feeling the memories echo through the Force. The most impactful event, however, lay with Revan's own mask. In the official story of Revan, he would not be reunited with his original mask, the one he wore during the Mandalorian Wars and the Jedi Civil War, until years after the events of KOTOR and KOTOR 2. Even though Revan now knew that he was Revan, many of his memories were still lost to him. The mask was kept from him by Bastila Shan and eventually returned to him by Mitra Surik, the Jedi exile from KOTOR 2. It was not until he touched the mask physically that all of his memories returned to him, and Revan was restored to his former power as all of his training and knowledge flooded back into him. While psychometry is still very rare, it's important that Revan had a very weak version of this ability and only seemed to be able to sense his own memories through echoes in the Force.
A vision of Malak and Revan in the ancient ruins here on Dantooine.
Now, I wanted to take a minute for an honorable mention. Now, to be fair, I have mostly been talking about abilities that were intrinsic to Revan's stories, not optional upgrades that you can unlock in the game, like Energy Drain. Otherwise, yes, Energy Drain and Life Drain would be on this list. Basically, it allows you to siphon your opponent's life force, both taking life energy from them and healing yourself. However, it isn't officially a part of Revan's story, so consider it an honorable mention.
She says she has felt your presence within the dream. The presence she has felt within you ever since...
Master Vandar.
Ever since Taurus.
The last ability I want to talk about is Force Bond, and it is certainly a weird one, especially in the way it pertains to Revan. So this isn't normally a power or ability, but it's more of like a circumstance. It's not usually something that you do, but rather something that is done to you. Near the end of the opening planet for KOTOR, it is revealed that Revan is bonded with Bastila. At first, this seems like the player character benefits from this bond, but I'm almost tempted to say that Bastila is the only one who actually benefits from it in the game, since the main way this ability manifests itself is that Bastila can experience Revan's psychometric memory visions, but he can still experience the memory visions even when she's not present in the game. But I'm actually being a little bit too hard on this ability. The bond actually allowed Jedi to instinctively communicate thoughts and emotions to each other from across the battlefield, even sending images or flashes of information in an instant. Just because we didn't see the ability play out that way in the game doesn't mean that that isn't a major part of the bond. Furthermore, according to HK-47 and the Jedi Council member Zez Kyle, Revan spent much of his time studying this strange tether in the Force, learning how to create and break these bonds at will, and use them for tactical advantage.
It was rumored that Revan studied such bonding deeply, both through the Jedi histories and with certain teachers, before he left the Order and went to war.
According to Zez Kyle, Revan was obsessed with this ability, studying it relentlessly during his youth before the Mandalorian Wars. The Jedi believed that these bonds could only be created by accident, and they chastised Revan for trying to learn how to purposefully create something that only the Force could do. Basically, they said he was wasting his time trying to learn something that could not be done. However, Revan didn't give up and continued to study the bond with great dedication and zeal.
Have you never asked yourself how Revan took the Republic and Jedi beneath him, how he made them his?
It was not until after the events of KOTOR 1 that the Jedi Council realized that Revan had been successful in learning how to control this phenomenon, suspecting that it may have actually been the key for Revan's famous charisma.
Ah, but to make officers turn on their own people, to bomb innocent worlds, to make pacts, strong influence indeed.
Creating bonds with other Jedi in order to inspire them to join him against the Mandalorians. But of course his most famous bond is with Bastila, and supposedly he created that bond purposefully in the confrontation between he and Bastila right after he realized that Malak had fired on him, using the bond to draw on Bastila's life energy in order to keep himself alive after Malak betrayed him. But anyway, those were some of Revan's most rare Force abilities that came after years of training and dedicated study. Well, except for Psychometry, because those were his memories to begin with.
But talent without training is nothing.
But which was your favorite? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, because as always, I want to know what you, my friends, have to say about our favorite galaxy far, far away. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, or if you learned absolutely nothing new, you can feel free to leave a thumbs down, completely guilt-free, because that tells me I'm not doing my job. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, may the lore be with you, now and forever.